Hey everyone, welcome back. So in this video, I'm going to show you really easily and quickly how to leverage the power of the Google Vision API in Python. Before that, let me just show you the power of the Google Vision API. So if you have any picture, for example, here is a picture of a recent video thumbnail that I made, and I want to identify some natural things in this image. For example, I want to do some kind of facial detection. I want to say that there's one face in this image. I might want to identify the objects in this image, such as this hat or this shirt. And maybe I even want to identify things like the text in the image, like this UCLA or this Cal. And maybe I want to also see the dominant colors that are in the image. So these are all obviously things that I can see as a human, but it would be really hard for me to write some code from scratch that's going to identify all of this. It would take a really long time. It's pretty complex. But of course, Google, being the very sophisticated company that it is, already has a tool called the Google Vision AI that does this for us. So they have a try me mode down here where I've put this image in, and you can see that all these things are here easy for me to grab. For example, here's the face detection. It's found one face, mine, and it also assigns emotions. So all these emotions are unlikely, but based on the faces in your image, they might be different degrees of likely. We see that there's a headwear, and there's very likely. Indeed, I have a hat on. And it even gets small things like the degree to which my head is tilted. And that's not all. We can also get object detection. We see there's a hat, there's a person who's me, the animal, which is the bear, and some other things here. We also get label detection. It gets facial hair, cool, beard, cap. We also see logos. So we have the Berkeley and UCLA logos. We get text. It gets the text that are in this image. Basically, there's a ton of amazing information here that you might want to use for your application. Now the question is, how do we do this in Python so that we can loop over a bunch of different image URLs and get all this information dynamically instead of having to visit this try me mode and take a really long time to get it? So it turns out to be very simple, and this code will be made available to you in the description below, but I'll run through the basic steps here. So the first step is to visit this URL, Google Cloud Console, and you'll get to something like this. The next step is you want to create a project if you don't already have one. So the way you create a project would be click on this arrow and click on New Project. So I already have a project called Google Vision API. So I'll be using this one. Scroll down and click on Go to APIs Overview. Now you want to make sure to enable the Google Vision API. So click on this Enable APIs and Services button up here. Search for Vision. Click on Cloud Vision API and go ahead and click Enable. So now this API is enabled and ready to be used. Go ahead and click on this Credentials in the left-hand tab. So now you're going to create something called a service account, which is going to be used for Python to communicate with the Google Vision API. You can see that I've already created some credentials down here, but I'll go through a fresh creation of credentials with you. Click on Create Credentials. Click on Service Account. And give it some name. So I'm going to call this Tutorial Creds. And go ahead and click Create. You'll be asked some extra questions. Don't worry about them. Just click Continue, click Done, and you'll have a new set of credentials created. Go ahead and click on it. Scroll to the bottom, click on Add Key, create new key, make sure it's JSON, click Create, and a JSON file will be downloaded. Now take this file and put it in the same directory that you put the Jupyter notebook that you got from my GitHub. Okay, great. So most of the hard stuff is actually done now. So scroll down, go ahead and run this pip install Google Cloud Vision. So most likely you don't have this library yet. This is basically just a Python library that allows us to make requests to the Google Cloud Vision API. So it's going to go ahead and download it if it's not already downloaded. A couple of imports, and here's an important step. That JSON file that you just downloaded and put in your current working directory, go ahead and put that inside here. So this is the one I downloaded, but yours will be called something different. So go ahead and put the name of that file right here where I've highlighted. Perfect. Now we're pretty much good to go. Run these cells. Here we're going to create a client. We're going to put in the URL of the image that we want all the information about. So this is the URL of my video thumbnail. And that's basically it. The next part is basically just getting the information. So I'll show you the label detection code, and the rest is pretty similar. So we want to get the labels of the image, the thumbnail image that I just showed you. So we go ahead and call the label detection function of the Google Vision API client, put in the image we want to label detect. And then it's going to output a bunch of different labels and scores associated with those labels for how confident it is that that label exists. So I go ahead and just loop over all the different label annotations that I got back and print out the label itself and the score. So we see that facial hair has a score of 0.83. We see that cap has a score of 0.5. So we get all of this information now in Python. We can also do face detection. So it just detected one face with a confidence of 0.92. and the emotions were all 1. So there's a low chance that face was joy, sorrow, surprise, or anger. We can also get image properties, so we can get the dominant colors. So a couple of different dominant colors get suggested. One is RGB 14:9:11. You also get the score of each dominant color, as well as what fraction of the pixels in the image are this color. So 14:9 and 11 on a scale of 0 to 256 are all low. So this is kind of a very dark color, and that ends up making 30% of the pixels. I'm guessing that's just the top and bottom borders here. And lastly, we can get a text detection. You can print out all the different text that it sees in the image. So you see the Harvard motto here, you see the Cal here, you see Bruins here, a couple of misspellings here as well. And there are, of course, other things you can get too. If you go back in here, you can get things like safe search, you can get things like logos. So I didn't show those, but you get the idea. And you can literally do this with any image that you have the URL for. For example, here I have another image. Here's some recent US precedents. So let me just grab the URL here, and we'll rerun all of this using that instead. So let me just paste that URL, which happens to be very long, but it's okay. So if I go ahead and run all these cells with that US precedents image, we see that our labels are now event, business person, management, which makes sense. They all look like business people here. If we look at face detection, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 faces, and they're all pretty confidently predicted. Indeed, we have 5 people. Some of them are looking like joyous, some of them are looking more serious. Let's see if that gets reflected. We see that one is very joyous, one is less joyous. So we see that this does kind of match up. Image properties, some information about the colors, and the text detection came back blank because there is no text in this image. So it's really that easy to leverage this really, really cool, really powerful Google Vision API in Python without writing any of that complicated code yourself. So the last thing I'll say is that there is quotas on this API, which means that you're only allowed to make a certain number of requests per month. I'll include this link also in the description, but just be aware that you're only allowed to make 1,000 requests per month using this API for free. After that, it is paid. And I'm not sure if this changes in the future based on when you watch this video, so just do be aware of that. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more videos just like this. Any comments are welcome below, and I'll see you next time.